The success of the Apple Vision Pro launch, Part 2. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Take Control Books, one of the very best sources of clear, concise information on not only Apple's various operating systems, but also key Apple and third-party utilities and more. Visit TakeControlBooks.com and start your library today. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the MacVoices Live panel continues our discussion of how the Vision Pro launch will be viewed as a success or failure, what factors will be involved, and what exactly does success or failure mean with a brand new computing platform. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. The other thing, too, I wanted to ask about, though, is what are your reactions to this apparent, what is reportedly going to be about a 30-minute demo by the time they get you fitted properly and get you hooked up and run you through the demo? Is that something that you think is going to be a barrier to purchasing or a barrier to even trying?
Nope, not at all.
Well, it's going to be a barrier in that you won't be able to get it because there'll be so many people that the waiting list to get the 30-minute demo will be months long. That's the problem with it.
That's fair.
Honestly, I think this is being done to limit returns.
It's also a completely new platform. And I think that there are people who, I realize as I'm speaking, I'm about to completely validate what you were saying. So I'll just stop talking and say that.
Okay. Eric?
If I can watch 3D movies comfortably, I'm about 75% of the way to wanting to purchase one. But I need something to go with it. I will run out of 3D movie content before the end of the year. I think, though, that Apple won't be able to make enough of these and will be behind on orders from within the first month of selling them. I just don't think there's that many being produced.
If I remember a couple of the reports I saw, these are using Sony lenses, and Sony only has the capacity of making X number million lenses per year, and each one of these is going to require one for each eye. So therefore, there are only so many Vision Pros that could be produced each year. Now, I'd love to source that.
What I saw was X number 100, like 800,000. I think it was less than a million.
I don't know, Jim. I'd love to source it. I remember sort of feeding that into my brain for later use, and it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That if you have only the capacity to produce this many lenses, then therefore, yeah, there are only so many Vision Pros you could possibly produce.
Flip side is in the long run, they need to sell tens of millions of them to pay back the R&D cost. So they don't have to do that this year, but they need to do that over the next decade.
Is there any
Chuck,
reason that yes, yeah, Web?
I'm going to echo what Mark Puccio put in the YouTube chat that I thought was interesting. It comes right down to, and I agree with him completely. The question is, as the Vision Pro, what is the problem that it solves? And defining that could be different from me than it could be from Eric, could be from what problem that we have. But and we've talked about this before in previous shows. And Chuck, I think you defined it as we haven't discovered yet what the killer app is for the Vision Pro. I'm sure there's one out there. I don't know what it is yet. I don't see using the Vision Pro to do an Excel spreadsheet. Could be wrong, but I just don't see it that way. I remember when the iPads first came out, they were kind of, actually, I think it was Leo Laporte who was saying that it was really a content user or it didn't create content. Yeah. I just thought that was interesting, but I just wanted to echo what Mark says. What's the problem with the Vision Pro? It's about the utility, not the price. I think that's a really good point.
Well, people still haven't decided where the iPad is a consumption-only device.
I think it started out that way, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily agreed. And I use my iPad a lot every day, and 98% of it is consumption. And so,
I first of all, I'm with you on that, Jim, but that doesn't mean that it can't be.
I also bought a very expensive iPad, so I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we're 14 years out, I think, from the iPad being introduced, and we're still not all agreed on what it's for. So we're sure as heck not going to know what the Vision Pro is for yet.
Yeah, it's about each person's use case. But you're right. How are we going to decide? Like for you, it's a content consumption device. My iPad Pro is a content creation device. And sometimes I will consume content there, but not very often. And we both have really cool iPads, and we're just using them in different ways. I expect we'll see the same with Vision Pro.
Well, yeah, what I said was it's 14 years later, and there's not a consensus on what's the killer feature of an iPad. So,
is there one for the Mac?
Took it right out of my mouth, guy. I'm thinking the same thing. That's sort of the beauty of these devices. They turn into whatever each individual wants them to be. Yeah, or needs them to be. Because I don't consider my iPad a creative device, but it's a production device because of what I do with it, along with the consumption device part.
Yeah, I was creating podcasts and videos with it back in 2014.
I would never do that, but I understand that people do, and that's what I'm saying is, to look at say, oh, what's the Vision Pro going to be for? Different people may come up with different answers for that, and we're way early to know.
Well, hopefully that's true, because if it's a one-trick pony, then it likely will fail.
And I don't think this can possibly be a one-trick pony, given what Apple's has apparently already put into it.
Yeah.
From the developer tools perspective, and this is just the first iteration. So
and I think the question is going to be, what can it do that is killer beyond what our existing devices do? So and that's one of the things about the question about apps. The thing is, whatever apps come out, we're not going to see anything on February 2nd, or probably even in the first few months, that really shows off the device, because developers haven't had them. Almost all the developers are developing apps in that are doing it. They're doing it in the simulator, so they don't even know. I know somebody that's hoping to get an app out on day one, and I saw a demo at a meetup last week of this app, and we were talking about this and that, and there was a bunch of stuff that he was like, yeah, I'm interested in doing that, but what you're talking about would require using your hands to manipulate stuff, and the simulator doesn't simulate that at all. So
that's a problem.
I literally cannot develop that now because I don't have the device. So, and a lot of the other developers were kind of felt like, man, you are adventurous in, putting an app in the store for, when, and you're going to have to support this device that you don't have yet. And, he's obviously going to try and get one as soon as he can. Although, it's not an app that he thinks it's going to, it's not, doesn't look like an app that even he thinks is going to be a big moneymaker. He just, wants to be on the ground floor. It's basically a 3D sort of tic-tac-toe Tetris kind of game.
And Jim, that makes my point exactly from the early days of the iPad and even the iPhone, that, we saw these very simple things that were almost proof of concept kind of thing as the developers were stretching their legs and learning what could be done with it. And now look at the things we have.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, most of my apps just do one thing, although, certainly apps are some of the apps are more complicated than they were. I think that's mostly because the underlying frameworks, there's a lot more. But I don't think, there wasn't never anybody developing iPhone apps without having an iPhone for the most part.
Yeah, that's true too.
Hey,
Norbert,
Chuck,
go ahead, Jeff.
I'm totally interrupting.
No.
Even though I cannot participate in the chat, YouTube, I can still read it. And Barry in the chat said the killer function may turn out to be spatial computing, like a GUI became the killer function that accelerated personal computers for the rest of us. And I'm calling that out because I liked that perspective.
Yeah, listen, the chat room has been amazing tonight. There's been no way that I could possibly keep up with all of that and this conversation. And so I'm with you. Jeff, that's interesting though. I never thought of the GUI as being a killer function. I've got to process that a little bit.
Well, the fact that it's 3D. And I think, to me, that's the thing about the iPhone. The thing that really wasn't anticipated about it was, aspects of the phone, because it's a mobile device and because it's in your hand. So there's a lot of apps that we never thought of. Look at things like Uber and Lyft. It's because it's a device that's on you. It's got GPS. It's, you could not have those apps on a desktop computer because the desktop computer isn't on you. All the things that are camera oriented, you can point at, and a lot of these things, people had to have the device in their hand and use it for a while. And that also goes back, before they even thought of, these things where there's all these apps that they only make sense because it's a device that's in your hand and with you, and not something that's tied to a desktop. Also, the fact that it's always has network connectivity. You can't basically never have a phone without connectivity. So that allows all kinds of things with, server oriented and, network oriented, where it used to be. Now desktop apps pretty much are connected all the time, but that didn't used to be a given. A desktop app used to run on its own. And it wasn't until the iPhone came along, that was really the first device where you were guaranteed that you always had a network connection. And even in 2010, a desktop wasn't guaranteed in that way to have a desktop connection all the time. So, people are going to have to use these things. And again, that's what I was saying, early iPhone developers, nobody developed iPhone software without already having used an iPhone. But nobody's used the Vision Pro except for people at Apple. A few people have gone to Apple and got to use it for 2 or 3 hours. But people are going to have to live with it. And we will have to see, what are the things that having this 3D, somebody's going to be like, hey, I can do this that, nobody could imagine now. So that's going to be, really interesting to see. Who knows? Maybe it'll be nothing, but there'll probably be something.
I want to make sure that Norbert gets in here one last time because we don't get him here that often. Norbert, you've been sitting quietly absorbing all of this. Any thoughts or words of wisdom from a more rational standpoint than any of us can offer?
I'll try. I think, this is a long-term vision, pun intended, for Apple. They're not going to be able to measure success in the short term. Neither will we, neither will any of the pundits. There's not going to be any shortage of articles in the next few days saying, next few months, saying that Apple's doomed, that this is a product that's horrible, because that gets clicks. Okay, if there is a poor Apple's put in a lot of effort, the most effort that I've ever seen in launching a new product. The 30-minute time appointment that you have to go through it to make sure that they explain it to you that this is something completely new. The Apple Watch had its little buddy, the iPhone, that they work together. So they're taking their time to making sure that they can answer all questions, even for the people that do have access to the Vision Pro now. The article that came out today that this is probably our third or fourth time that they've tried it, and that Apple's going to make it come back again before it actually launches, before they can start putting out their the reviews of it. They're being very, meticulous on making sure that they're explaining what it is correctly, and they do have to let it out into the wild, even if there is a launch that, to Jeff's point a little while ago, and push back on that. Each of us have purchased iPhones. We're early adopters. We wake up at some ungodly time in the middle of the night to order an iPhone, and how many times have we had it where the iPhone, the app crashes, or we can't order the phone, or we get the phone, a couple months later because we weren't able to order it. Yet, the iPhone continues. But in this particular case, I think that it's going to take much, much more time. And, to kind of sum it back up, I'm going to agree with Ben, mindshare. We have to continue to talk about it. It has to be continued to be worked on. And what we don't know is probably the most exciting part. Maybe 3 years from now, we're not going to know, though, we're not going to imagine what it is that we have. Maybe they've turned it into the part of now that we just have eyeglasses. It's not just big bulky thing that weighs on your head, and it's not more of a VR, but more of an AR type of thing. So I think it's exciting. I'm looking at it as a half glass full thing, and I think that it's something that is exciting, something that Apple hasn't done in quite some time. And I'm looking forward to trying it out and doing the appointment. And it's going to be something that's going to be good, but we're never going to have that answer of if it is successful in the future. It's going to take some time for sure.
Very wise. Very wise.
Point.
Guys, thanks. This has been interesting. I hope it's been interesting to everyone else. It's by the time we reconvene in a few weeks, we will see. We'll have more information. Let's put it this way. So let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you, and then we'll get out of here. So taking the order just the way we did before, Mr. David Ginsburg is up first. David, thank you. Where can folks connect with you?
Thank you for having me, as always, Chuck. You can find me at InTouchWithIOS and InTouchWithIOS.com. Actually, Chuck will be on the show this week to give us more insights on CES. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/InTouchWithIOS. And I'm on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network on Fridays, as well as on my Mastodon at DaveG65 and Mastodon.cloud. Thank you.
Thank you, David. You're expecting insights? Wow, yes. I'm in trouble. Norbert Frassa, folks, I gotta point out, Norbert, the reason you see so many great shots, especially the product shots, the second camera shots and all, is due to Norbert's work, plus the fact that he keeps me propped up and moving around the show floor. So, Norbert, thank you again for everything. I know we've been doing this a number of years. Couldn't do it to this degree without you, not even close. What's the best way for folks to reach out and connect with you if they need to or want to?
Chuck, this is our fourth or fifth year together doing that. It's been a blast, as always. Looking forward to CES 2025 and hitting the show floor running. I'm on the socials as Norbert Frassa. Basically anywhere that the social is, that's my call sign. So, and you'll also find me on the other side of the camera on the many videos that will be coming out in the next few weeks through the MacVoices feed.
And I am going to try to get him in front of the camera for at least one particular project. So we'll talk more about that later. Thanks again, Norbert. You're always welcome anytime here.
It's my pleasure.
At the very least, it's free entertainment. Speaking of free entertainment, Eric Bolden. Eric, thanks so much for being here. Where can folks connect with you?
You can find me on Mastodon, EA Bolden at techhub.social or mas.to.
Thank you. Good to have you. We'll look forward to another picture next time. Ben Roethig, great to see you as always. Where can folks find you now?
Well, Chuck, you can find me at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. You can find my writings on roethig.tech. On Thursday nights, you can find me on In Touch with iOS with a Mr. David Ginsburg. I think we might know him, kind of. On Thursday and Fridays, you can also find me on the British Tech Network on the Big and Mac shows.
Thank you, Ben. Good to see you.
As always, you as well, Chuck.
Jeff Gamet, it's always good to see you as well, and to even hear you. Where can folks connect with you?
Well, when I'm not sitting around thinking, man, that Chuck is dreamy, which does happen a lot. On the socials, Jay Gamet, pretty much everywhere, and Mastodon, Instagram, Threads. That's where I'm posting most of my stuff right now. And for shows, well, apparently up until tonight, MacVoices Live. Then on Thursdays, In Touch with iOS, Dave's show. Then on the British Tech Network, The Big Show and the Mac show. So that would be Thursday and Friday. And Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine.
And you do it so well.
Oh, thanks.
Very well.
Although, come to think of it, I was listening to the recent Context Machine. I have a bone to pick with you on the recent Context Machine. But
Only one?
Only one.
I better step up my game.
We will talk about that
You're
later.
Slacking, Jeff.
So, but if go check it out and find out what Jeff said that offended me. Anyway, Jeff, thanks for being here.
One thing.
Only one. Jim Ray, you didn't say anything offensive tonight, so I'll just say thanks for being here.
Oh, I am so tempted.
That was not a challenge, Jim.
That's good because I couldn't think of anything. I try not to be offensive. I fail sometimes. You can find me on the web at provue.com, spelled weird, PROVUE.com, and also on Mastodon at ProVueJim, same weird spelling, at techhub.social.
Thank you, Jim. Good to see you. Guy Serle, we're so glad you got everything up and running, so you could join us.
It was iffy for a little while.
Yeah, well, we know how that goes.
Yeah.
Where can folks connect with you?
Well, you can find me almost every single week doing the mymac.com podcast with Gaz. The videos that we create in doing that show can be found on YouTube under VertShark, and there is also vertshark.com, which is all now nicely caught up to what it was not caught up to before. I am Mac Parrot and VertShark over on those stupid X's. I'm also Mac Parrot on Counter Social and Mastodon.social, and we have a Google Voice number if you want to give us crap for some reason or another over something we say in the podcast, or just give us crap in general. It's 703-828-4677. Thank you.
What was that number again? No, never mind. I'll do it.
That number again is 703-828-4677. Call it collect. Call it direct. But call it today. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. You've trained Web Bixby. I don't know what to make of that at all.
Yeah, that just shows my age.
I'm not going to ask about your age, Web. I'm just going to ask where folks can connect with you.
At the socials, it's just about everywhere, Web Bixby. Today, I will emphasize my Facebook page, which is Web Bixby. So,
excellent. Web, thanks so much. Great to see you.
Thank you.
How that works.
I said it several times, folks. I'm going to say it again. I thank you so much to the chat room. I just simply could not keep up with all the comments, but there were a lot of great observations about everything we were talking about from CES and products that were shown there right through the Vision Pro stuff. So you need to be here in the chat rooms to take advantage of the wisdom of all those folks. Thank you for being here. So this is Mac Voices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. YouTube.com/MacVoicesTV. Come on in, join us. The chat room is all warm and fuzzy, just waiting for you. And of course, you can see a lot of the CES videos coming as we get them produced. So be sure to subscribe to us on your podcast of choice, podcatcher of choice. On YouTube, on Vimeo, on SoundCloud. We're pretty much everywhere that you can find anything, we're there. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.